Hello, hello, and welcome back to TGTV, and more specifically, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a sunny day and this Bentley. I'm in a very exciting place which we're going to get into very, very soon. We're going to take you around this car, explain a little bit why I've got this car, what I think of it, and then we're going to jump inside and we're going to get into some financial nitty gritty, no stone unturned, and some poignant questions are being answered today, so stay tuned for that. But first things, Bentley. So this then is my ride at the moment. You'll see actually, handily there, we are at Charles & Dean's brand new HQ, and I thought, why not impress the lads and turn up in something they really would not expect. So this then is the Bentley Continental GT, the brand new one, V8 cab. This is an incredibly highly optioned car. And in this colour, it looks absolutely stunning. I just want to point out some things on this car. It's got full carbon the whole way around it, even down to these amazing side skirts here, emblazoned with the Bentley logo. Black calipers, which I obviously love. And on the front of the car here, they've got a carbon splitter there as well. It's so over the top, it's genius. And inside here, we've got navy blue leather, and we've got full carbon the whole way around it as well. This thing has absolutely wafted the 120 odd miles up here. It's brilliant. I'm going to try and get a full video out with this car as soon as possible. There's also got the incredible NIME audio as well, or name audio. There's also a bee attacking the indicator stalks over there as well. But we're not here to talk about Bentleys today, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to go into Charles & Dean's brand new premises. I'm also being filmed for their social platforms and website as well. Here we go. This is their new setup. So let's go in then. Let's take a little look at what is going on. So in we come then. This is their new premises. Actually, I've got a confession. We're going through here, but the guys have actually moved in here literally yesterday, so they're going to knock through this wall. But by the power of the internet, I can go, what a piece of editing that was. So, what you see here then in this wing is the commercial funding arm of the business. As I said, they literally moved in here yesterday. So this side of the business, we've got ops over there as well, actually deals with commercial funding. So if you want like a pub fit out, a gym fit out, you want to fund machinery, so like tractors, even livestock, anything like that, any form of commercial funding, these guys will sort it. As I say, some of them aren't at my desk, some of them aren't at their desk. They saw me coming and ran off, but literally they moved in yesterday, so it's very sparsely furnished, and the guys are actually trying to do some work as well. So we are annoying them with the camera crew here. Hello, hello, how are we doing? So let's go up to the motor division then. As I said, this is getting knocked through. Let's go upstairs then. Motor division. This will be the team that I basically ruin their lives on a weekly basis and get them to fund all sorts of nonsense. Again, some of them probably done a runner when they saw me coming with the camera. Here we go then. Here is the motor division. Hello, motor division. How are we doing? Simon pretending to be busy over there. Hi guys.
You all right?
What's going on? Now, everyone's working away here, but this gentleman, someone whom I ruin his life almost on a weekly basis. I'm going to film you from this direction so we can't see anything on the screen there, sir. None of my numbers.
I like it all.
Good. How's it going? You busy?
Yeah, very busy at the minute. Yeah, we've got loads of.
How are you feeling about me disrupting your working day with a camera?
Absolutely fine. Used to it.
We're actually going to catch up. I'm going to go for a chat with Tom in a second. We're going to go through some numbers, but we're going to catch up because I want you to run a quote on my next car, 992 Turbo S Cab. Do you think you can handle it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think the question is whether or not I can afford it, but we'll find out.
We'll find out soon.
So I'm going to find Tom. We're going to go and jump down and answer some questions on various platforms that have been asked about my finances and how it all works. But then we're going to come back up and we're going to run a quote. So you've been given a heads up here. 15-minute heads up. I'll catch up with you in a sec. Nice one. So, I'm in the new premises. Congrats.
You are.
Very
Thank
nice
you.
indeed.
Yeah.
We've just had a little tour around.
Yeah.
I thought now would be a good time to sit down and discuss with you my car collection, how it all works, and tell my viewers at home how I've managed to fund all my cars. And we're going to go into some granular depth and some details and some numbers, and actually how it all works. From a business perspective, running a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And we'll also talk about, I know you've got some questions surrounding my car collection, and how it's kind of shifted towards where it is now.
Definitely.
And what effect that might have on the market. and sort of from your guys' perspective as well, being behind the scenes, what you now see coming in, business-wise, and where you see trends coming. So, interesting chat.
Yeah, no,
I know you got some burning questions as well, because you see my request coming through on the funding, and you think, what is he up to now?
I think your CGT, from our perspective, is quite a pivotal point.
Yeah.
It seemed to be that you shifted in your sort of buying plan from that CGT onwards. There seemed to be a much greater interest in classics and potentially future classics. And I just want to understand a little bit more about, your decision around that, because obviously you've moved from a lot more modern cars to recent things like your Testarossa. Your CGT was obviously was a big one, but then obviously recently your SLS purchase. So and obviously some of your classic Porsches. So how considered are those purchases now? And want to understand a little bit more about why and how you make those decisions.
Okay, so it's quite case by case, but you're definitely right. The CGT, many of you remember, that was March 2020.
Yeah.
If you're going to go and spend, X hundreds of thousands of pounds on a car, probably not the best timing in the world to do it.
No.
Nobody knew what was going to happen. And around that time, I also left my job as well. I might have kept that bit from you guys.
I think you might have done.
So yeah, I mean, at that point, that was very much a leap of faith. But Carrera GT was always a car that I've always wanted. It was a bucket list car for me. I remember that thing being shown in Paris and just thinking, what the hell is that? And that particular car came up as a result of actually a private sale, off market, via kind of a divorce settlement.
Sure.
So it came up off market for a really good price through someone that I've known for years and years and years. So it was the right car at the right money, just albeit not at the right time. Sure. So I shoehorned myself into it anyway. I thought, this is a car that I've always wanted. I think they're on an amazing trajectory. I think they're extremely undervalued, considering the provenance and the kind of the story behind that car is just amazing, the way it was developed.
So touching on that quickly, you talk about your perception was they were hugely undervalued. Making an investment of that size with what is quite a varied market in terms of values, because CGTs can vary quite hugely across the market. Why did you think, and what were your reasons behind why you felt they were undervalued?
If you look at the other kind of iconic sort of hypercars of those eras, with limited numbers and whatnot, so you've got your F40s, your F50s, your Zondas, your Enzos, albeit yes, the Porsche's made in greater numbers. Porsche's not quite the brand that Ferrari is potentially at that level of the market, and it's definitely not Pagani. I just think that a ropey F40 sitting at double what a CGT is, that didn't seem right to me. And I think whereas the F40's got a few more years on it, and that's at the level where the people that grew up with that car wanting that car, and now in the sphere where they've got the disposable income to kind of throw at it. I think classics come into their own at sort of 30 to 40 years old. The people that grew up with those, they've got rid of their kids. They've disposed of them, but they've kind of shoveled them off. They're now financially independent, and they're kind of got their retirement money and whatever, and they're looking at those assets to buy into. Carrera GT, don't forget, is 2006, so that's yet to have its heyday.
Sure.
And I just thought to myself, this car's come up with the right money, and if I don't catch it now, I don't think I'm ever going to. And I mean, if you saw a Carrera GT at £1 million, gut reaction wouldn't be, that's a hell of a lot for that car. You'd think, half of the course, really.
So you obviously found that car, we funded it for you back in March 20.
That was a fun process, wasn't it? You all enjoyed that one.
It was a team effort.
Yeah.
That was March 20 when you bought that car. How much time prior to purchasing it had your ear to the ground looking to try and find the right car? Was it a year process, or was it a case of, January 2020, I want to buy a CGT? What was your process? How drawn out was that?
I've wanted, at that point, a Carrera GT for years.
Yeah.
But they were all sitting at just too much money. I didn't really. I wanted a car that I could buy the seller.
Yeah.
And I wanted a car that I knew the background of. And so there wasn't an active investigation into buying Carrera GTs. I knew about the car that I bought probably a year or two prior. Okay. I knew about the car, I knew where it was,
so
I knew who was looking after it. Yeah, I mean, some of its history, and I know the bloke that was there when it came out of Bristol, brand new.
Right.
And he's looked after it since. So I knew about the car, and he actually tentatively offered it to me 18 months or so prior.
at which point it was snaffled up. I wasn't in the position to buy it then. I think it was snaffled up by someone who went and put it in his collection. Anyway, so there wasn't an active investigation into a Carrera GT at the point at which I bought it, but it came on the market as a result of family circumstances from the seller. So I kind of I either grabbed it or I missed it.
So that obviously having that reassurance of knowing where it came from main dealer, and the sort of the journey that car had to the point which you bought it. Do you feel that's equally as important for all your future classic purchases? Will you go into that level of depth of understanding what the history of the car is before purchasing?
Yeah, varying. I mean, the Carrera GT is one of those cars. If it's had a shunt, it's so much carbon internally and everything like that. It can be absolutely kind of basically written off without you even knowing. There's so much carbon on the exterior of the car, the service history. It's all really important with that car. But like the Testarossa, for example. That's got an amazing history on it.
Sure.
And that's not a car I'd buy without from just a random place. I would always just kind of make sure that's come from the right source.
What about your SLS?
The SLS is a different one because it's modern, so it's less. It's all kind of electronic, and the service history is kind of stamped by dealers, and it's all in their systems and whatever. So there's less concern about that sort of thing. If it has been shunted, that's probably going to be on an insurance database, somewhere like that, because it's lived its whole life in the kind of the modern time where everything's documented. Whereas some of these older cars, this was in a time where things weren't always recorded, so you've got to be a bit more careful. But SLS, full Benz history. Was not registered on any Cat D, Cat C or anything. So
So your car collection now, I mean, it's pretty varied now. Where it's predominantly more modern cars, and over the years now you've gained more classics. Your SLS, your Testarossa, your classic Porsche, and obviously your CGT. What's the sort of strategy moving forward? Do you think that your car collection will gravitate more towards the future classics or the classics, and the more modern stuff there'll be fewer cars in your collection, or what's your strategy around that?
I think the older stuff will gradually those cars will become kind of almost like protagonists on the channel. They will be more focused on that stuff. They will stick around for longer. Certainly the older stuff now, I don't really have any of them in mind for the chopping block. But I will still have a rolling fleet of modern stuff, so coming in and out. So notably recently, the 2 Lamborghinis, my Evo rear-wheel drive, which had a 7-month stint on the channel. That came in and went out. The Urus came in and went out. I've had a 992 Turbo S coupe. Got the 992 Turbo S cab, which we're running numbers on today here. And we're going to see how they come out
later.
I'm going to go and annoy Mike again. So those modern cars will come in and they will stimulate a certain type of interest and viewership on the channel, and they'll drive the numbers and kind of a bit more kind of like vanity numbers for the channel, just to make it kind of all look buoyant and nice for sort of brand partnerships and things. But in terms of cultivating an audience that a slightly more considered audience and longevity, I'm going with the classic stuff because that's stuff that I really love. Modern cars, I love them, but I find it harder to kind of really attach myself to them and buy into them and want them long term.
So getting into the sort of nitty gritty of your channel then, obviously you've been running your channel for years, you've got brand partnerships with various people, including us, and so we've been working with for a couple of years now. But it'd be quite interesting to understand a little bit more about, how does it work behind the scenes? You running a business, you running a YouTube business. What does that look like? And obviously, naturally, it's helping you fund your cars, and your cars are, your effectively your business assets because they're what's creating your content. It's helping you create interesting content for your audience. But it'd be good to just know a little bit more about behind the scenes of running a business, really, a YouTube business.
So the YouTube things, it's a hard sell for people. And a lot of the comments I get are, your YouTube channel can't be making enough money to support the cars. What's going on? There must be smoke and mirrors. But I think if you just take it at a really high level, if you look at what I'm actually doing, YouTube, like Netflix, for example, we'll take what Netflix do. They have outgoings of, producers, sets, editors, actors, you name it. Their outgoings are huge. What are they trying to do? Get eyeballs. What do they do with those eyeballs? Make money off those eyeballs. And with my channel, it's exactly the same thing. The cars are in, I get the eyeballs on them, and then I make money out of the eyeballs. It's what all YouTubers are doing, whether you like it or not. That's what they're all doing, and that's the crux of the business. So if you can spend, for example, my monthly outgoings on cars and storage and everything to do with the cars is probably, and haven't actually added up recently. That's really poor financial management for me there. It's probably between 17 and 20 grand a month just on that.
Yeah.
But that's to run my business. That's the cost of my business.
Your business running
I don't
costs.
have producers. I don't have editors. I don't have people that I pay. I've got no one on the payroll.
Yeah.
Even someone like Mahmood, he will be cutting on deals that he brings me, but there's no one on the payroll.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only expense for my channel to run my business, I don't have a warehouse or a printing press or whatever it is most of these businesses have. It's solely the car. So that's my kind of break-even figure.
Sure.
But even a channel of my size, if you commercialize it correctly and you really understand what your audience is about, work with your audience, and just treat it like a business, but also do stuff that you enjoy and you're authentic, you can have X amount of retainers. You can easily have 10, 15 retainers.
Yeah.
They can all be between £1,000 and £5,000 a month each.
Yeah.
So you can quickly see, even on that basis,
How the model works.
But then you've got things like AdSense as well.
Of course.
You can grow your own brands off your social media following.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got 5, 6 different brands off the top of my head. That none of them make me billions and billions.
Yeah.
But they're all additional income streams.
Yeah.
Obviously, the expenditure to do with the channel, it's business expenditure. So
Absolutely.
it does make sense. There is no smoke and mirrors there. I mean, something like the Carrera GT, for example, as well. There's capital gain in there as well, on those assets. So a lot of those things, they're kind of wiping their own bottom, so to speak.
Of course.
The classic Porsches, they're all seriously up. SLS, seriously up. Testarossa, seriously up. F12, a little bit down. But, I'll take the Lambo actually as a kind of the rear-wheel drive that I just got rid of. That was a modern car, something that was just kind of a rolling in and out, just a bit of a churner, and to keep kind of some of the more passive audience engaged.
Yeah.
That car I had since January, and that directly as a result of kind of brand partnerships directly tied into that car, and the content I did with that car probably did me 40, maybe 45k in 7 months.
Right. Wow.
And I've just got out of that car 7 grand over what I paid, maybe 8 grand over what I paid for it.
Yeah.
So you can very easily see
Yeah.
that's a viable business.
Sure.
I mean, and all I've done is just drive around with GoPros in and whatever, and kind of work with the right brands at the right time.
Yeah. In terms of, as an influencer, with certain cars that you've bought and acquired recently, I would say that there's a handful of cars I can think of that have definitely seen an upward trend in terms of value. Do you think there's any correlation with you being an influencer and the movement of that market in an upward trajectory? Do you think you're having any impact on that? A, by owning one, and then B, by effectively promoting it. Do you see any correlation, do you think, in that?
I do, yes. I would love to take credit and say I am the UK car market. Unfortunately, I'm not. But I would say that the cars that I jump in often are at the sort of the early stages of an upward curve.
Yeah.
And I think by jumping into them and kind of really bringing them to people's attention and say, look, guys, these are actually quite cool. And for 996, for example, for sort of 25, 30 grand, you can jump in a 996, which potentially, will have a slight appreciation curve. And it's a cool kind of fraternity to be a part of the Porsche thing. And, it's a really nice design. You're just opening people's eyes, I think, to alternatives as opposed to just saying, go and get an M4 and put a Burble mod on it or whatever it is.
I mean, from our point of view, obviously we've been working with you for a while now, but when there seems to be a period where you're focusing on a car, we definitely see a correlation with the number of inquiries on that car or a type of car similar. So it could be an SLS, it could be a Testarossa, it could be your Carrera T. We definitely see a correlation. So I think there is an impact, especially in the interest people have towards those cars as a result of the content you put out there.
It works. The model works. I mean, there is an element as well. When I buy a car, I know there will be a slight bump on the market. But something like the SLS, for example, there aren't hundreds on the market.
Yeah.
There's only ever probably under 10 a lot of the time on the market. And then if you really sort of boil that down, there's only ever a few good cars on the market at any one time. And if I can have even the vaguest impact, for example, if I go and buy an SLS and 100,000 people watch that video, probably 50, 60,000 in the UK. And of that, 5, 10,000 of it might be able to afford the bloody thing and kind of actually actively in the market for a supercar. You know, it doesn't take that much as a conversion rate of that sort of 5,000-10,000 people to actively put an inquiry in on a car, buy a car, and it really doesn't take much to move the market in these things. It sounds like quite a grand thing, you know, I'm moving the car market, but when you boil it down, it's only a few people buying a car.
Small marketplace.
And when people are watching the video that have got an SS already, and I'm going, whoa, they're 200 grand, they're £1 million today, and they think, right, I'm going to go and sell it. 200 grand. They just go and put it up for slightly more. It's very easy to see how the market can move on that particular asset. And SS is a great example in that they're not making any more. You know, it is a finite resource, and that pot is ever dwindling. You know, people are writing them off, they're modifying them beyond belief and kind of destroying them. So that pot is dwindling. So yeah, there very definitely is an effect, but that's not been me being obnoxious. I think that's just, you know, it's par for the course. I'm making car videos for car people, so there's always going to be an effect.
Okay. To finish up, Tom, it'd be great just to understand a little bit more about, you know, where your channel's going, what's next, what's coming up. You know, halfway through a year already. What's coming down the road?
I wish I had it all mapped out. To be honest with you, after the 992 Turbo S, I don't know. There might be something that jumps out and grabs me. I'd love to say there's not going to be any more old Porsches, but there probably will, because I think I've developed actually a bit of an issue. So we'll see. Cool. We'll see. I want to obviously get abroad in some of the cars as well, but with what's going on, it's just a complete pig at the moment. But I appreciate you guys having me down. Really cool to see the new site. Obviously we've been working together a couple of years now, and you know, from the early days it was a really small team of you to come here to your new premises. You know, you've got your motor guys upstairs, and you've got the other side of the funding business, commercial side. I think there's a massive site. It's really cool to see you growing.
No, it's been really good just to have a bit more of a detailed chat with you as well, just sort of talk a bit more about the behind the scenes of the channel. So I know you've got a cab 992 pending, so we probably should head upstairs and
Mike's up there in peace. Let's go and annoy
Mike.
Yeah. Right, thanks very much, mate.
Yeah,
sweet. Nice one.
Right then, let's go and pester Mike once again. He's had some time to think and run some numbers. We're going to get around here so we don't see any personal details on the screen there, Mike. So, 992 Turbo S, we're looking at what? It's a list price of the car that I spec'd is 184. And I want to put in about 20 grand. So what are we talking?
We've got, at the minute, a purely indicative, but a residual of 110, which is pretty strong on these.
Wow.
Porsches are typically very good on residuals anyway. So you've got payments of 1799 at the minute. 1799
a month over how many years? This is purely indicative. I know you've just said that, but I want to draw that in because not everyone listens to things the first time around. So it's purely indicative. That will change depending on people's different credit. Kind of, this is not a deal that's just out there. So don't ring him and say, I want a 992 Turbo S cab for 1799 a month, because it's so many different factors. But roughly 1,800 quid a month with 20 grand down.
So as you said, it's based on credit. So you've obviously got good credit, as we know.
Lovely. For now we have.
So it's based with a good lender. But good residuals on Porsches. Just shy of 1,800 a month. And that's on a car's based on 184. So it's
perfect. And just to clarify for anyone that doesn't understand kind of the setup and what you guys do, you aren't physically lending the money. What you guys do is place the correct asset with the kind of the correct usage and what the client wants with the right lender. So you've got a whole book of lenders of people with sort of a pot of money that they will lend out. But some lenders prefer, PAYE people. Some lenders prefer classics. Some lenders prefer certain brands, modern cars, whatever. They prefer people that keep their cars long term, short term. It all depends on the type of lender, their risk appetite, and what they're kind of into. So your job is to put that together in the best possible way, find the best possible deal for the client and what their kind of purpose is for the asset. Correct?
Yeah, correct. And sometimes actually the monthly payments might be slightly higher or slightly lower, depending on what the individual wants to do anyway. I know you tend to keep hold of your cars.
The modern ones, no, this one. So obviously, and that's a word of warning as well. If you are churning through cars, if you keep a car less than 3 months, lenders, next time you want a kind of a lend on a car, they probably won't like you as much, because the amount of effort and sort of work that goes into the credit on this side at their end and also on the broker end is a huge amount of work that goes into these. So if you keep something for 3 months, typically lenders won't look at you favourably. 6 months is about the cut-off for whether or not you kind of start looking at being looked at favourably, correct?
Yeah, typically 6 months. Lenders like to see that you can repay for at least 6 months. And if you keep it 6 months anyway, it's going to help with the next application. If you can get another vehicle, it's just going to help with that credit application. So yeah, the longer you can keep it, better. But of course, we're all petrol heads. We like to swap and change and try.
We do.
So,
we all like a churn, Mike. So this is a modern car. I'm probably going to keep it till sort of summer next year. So we'll be over the 6-month barrier. But I don't see. I might keep it longer. I'll keep an eye on values anyway. If they're going to tank, then I'll get out of it kind of mid to late next year. But we'll see. I think they should be really strong, particularly with the aero kit, Mike, because they've cancelled that again now. So there's going to be very few of those. Right, shall I let you get on with your life?
Perfect. I'll crack on with this, see if we can get it.
But yeah, the age-old question: is it going to go through? Cheers, mate. See you later. Let's go outside then. That then almost is that. I just want to point out a couple of cars in the car park before I disappear. Very aptly then for Charles and Dean. Tom, that we were just speaking to, sat down having a little conversation. This is his personal car, and very poignant actually. Not only a brand that I love in fact, but Charles and Dean actually, a huge chunk of their business is actually Porsches, and they are just proving to be so solid residually, relatively simple to fund comparatively to other brands. So this is his personal Targa GTS. I mean, these cars are just such good news at the moment. Dealers just cannot get hold of these things quick enough. And in terms of kind of a daily Porsche that is just brilliant, I think the 991.2 GTS anyway, just even the coupe, is a really good place to be, let alone the Targa. Great car anyway, and great colour for it. And also Simon here as well, this is his personal car. And this is why I get on with the guys so well, because they're basically just different versions of me, albeit slightly more civilised than I am. This is Simon's personal car, 991.2 Turbo S cab. Brilliant, brilliant car. Again, dealers just cannot get these things quick enough, and residually these are just such good news. In fact, these have gone up, and so has the 991.2 Targa GTS. They've gone up, you know, 10, 20 grand in value in the past 6 months alone. Really great cars, but I just wanted to point them out anyway, because they've brought their porkers in today. For now then, I'm going to jump back in my lovely but rather punchy Bentley and end the video there. Hopefully today's video was of some value, some use. Hopefully you learned something, hopefully you enjoyed it. And a huge thank you to the guys here at Charles and Dean, as always, for funding all my cars and just having me down and generally being good eggs. I've had a really nice time here. So I'm going to jump back in there and head down to rather uncivilized London. For now, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to subscribe, give it a little thumbs up, and give me a little comment with what you want to see next in my garage apart from the 992 Turbo S cab. I'm interested in your thoughts. What do you think is a good car to buy into now? What do you think is undervalued? What do you think would be good for content? I want to hear it. Any budget. Well, actually, let's cap it at £500,000. See you guys.